Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the podcast. For those of you that have been kind of tuning in through this must be a year now, which is crazy, you'll know that I kind of have a thing for watches. I always have and probably always will. Now, the guest we have on today is actually very special in the watch industry. He's the CEO and founder of Reservoir Watches. Francois founded Reservoir back in 2017, and in this podcast, he opens up about the intricacies of the watch industry, what it takes to start a luxury brand, what it takes to break through the seal of what is a very saturated market as it is. And he opens up about all the problems he had when setting up the brand, including what happened during COVID, which was horrendous for everybody, but specifically new businesses. This is a really brilliant conversation about a common passion, and I really hope you guys enjoy. So without further ado, let's get to this episode of the Into the Mind podcast. Enjoy. Did you always want to go into watches, or was that something that came after?
It came after. Actually, it came quite after because my first part of career has been 24 years in banking. Actually, I worked for a British bank that you know, of course, HSBC. And I worked for them in France, in Japan, in Hong Kong, at various C-level jobs. And these 24 years, most of it were really amazing. It was about creating, internet platform, call centers, or even opening a retail bank from scratch in Japan.
Yeah,
that was quite of a challenge, but it's a successful one. And so I really enjoyed my time with the bank, except probably the end where it was a bit more, about controls and compliance and restructuring and all that kind of stuff, which again has to be done. But I was more enjoying my career by doing some, creation, expansion, market share gaining, rather than closing branches or spending, days on regulatory matters, which again has to be done, but it was less my cup of tea, would I say. So at the end of my time with them, I reached the conclusion that I should probably do something else and start to consider doing something for which I can have a lot of passion. And I believe passion is a very powerful fuel. And I didn't see why I should not dare doing something like that. So initially my thought was about what I really do like. Well, I like many things in life, like food and wine and friends and golf and many stuff. But when I was thinking about where can I find an opportunity, it came obviously on the watch market, because when I was a banker, I've been collecting watches and getting a lot of interest into it. So reading, watch magazines, spending some time in retailers to see the novelties, to see the brands, how they evolve, etc. And I got to the conclusion that there was not really innovation on this market. That means the big brands, and I'm not critical, it's just a fact I was observing. The big brands were always selling the same stuff. So making maybe a new color dial or making a smaller or bigger case, but still always the same, core collections that were going on and on and on. The only thing that was changing was the price. So the new edition of that iconic model was increasing by 15%, and everybody was finding that normal. And actually, I was not. I was saying, why should I put twice the sum to buy me that iconic watch that I already have or bought some few years ago, and then I realized that the market was actually seeing a lot of emerging brands looking to have a disruptive interpretation of watch design. So that could be brands like a good example would be 7 Friday in the entry price point. So it was taking, I would say, basic Japanese movements, but making very disruptive designs, while no complication, but an affordable price. Another example could be Christopher Ward. They made a very interesting journey in terms of developing first their core collection based on their direct sell model, but also introducing new complications, skeleton or the bel canto, which is quite an interesting piece. But that was in the 1,000, 1,005 price point. Euros or pounds. And then you had on the other extreme all these crazy brands. MBNF probably the best example, but also Urwerk or Voutilainen, also watches with a very interesting execution. Most of them have unique complications, a very different way of designing watches, but at a price that are much higher. Call it starting at 30K, 50K, 100K. And then Richard Mille came with 160K and 500K. And there is a limit, 1.5 million or whatever. And then I was seeing that in the middle of the market, so call it the 5,000 pounds, there was not really, emerging new brands. And I thought to myself that might be an interesting opportunity to develop a watch brand that would be entering this premium luxury segment. So that was the opportunity view on the market. And then there was the concept. And I actually combined another passion I have since I'm a boy, actually, which are measuring instruments. So I love cockpits, I love dashboards. Since I'm a boy, when I was seeing a nice looking car, my first reflex was to think, how does the interior look like, and how does the dashboard look like? How does little hands giving you the turbo pressure gauge, or giving you the water cooling temp? All that devices were very fascinating to me. And then I start to get more and more involved in that. And, I visited a lot of museums for cars, planes, submarines, boats, also of vintage instruments. And I start buying them, collecting them. And I was with that in mind. And I was thinking, how could we bring, the watch world into these universes of most often men driving, high-speed car or piloting, warbirds or going into the deep of the sea with their submarine with all these mechanical gauges. How we could bring that? And one day I was driving. And I was at a red light, and I was doing something that I would probably not do today for several reasons. But I was playing with my accelerator, and I was watching the RPM hand moving, at the speed of my gas pedal. And then I realized that I saw a retrograde minute. And I thought to myself, well, if we take a retrograde minute from 0 to 60, looking exactly like an RPM gauge or like a speedometer. And then if we add a jumping hour, and then if we add additionally a power reserve to bring alive this feeling about all these little hands, again, telling you the fuel gauge, the temp, the pressure, etc. That would be a very cool watch. And I thought this is a simple idea, but that might come with a strong potential. And combining that with my knowledge about all the car dashboards, playing cockpits, because again, I've been spending years in, spending time in museum or in car shows. And then I was just knowing exactly how a Porsche would look like. Actually, now how the 911, or actually not like the 963 would look like when compared to a 356. And then I realized that the potential was absolutely huge, because it's not just cars. It's not just German cars. It's not just Porsche design. It's models and models through history of these cars. And it's same story in Italy, same story in France, of course, same story in the UK, same story in the US. So just for cars, almost infinite. And today we have around 15 collections, and something like 10 collections are coming from these specific eras, where you could find a a 911 inspired, RPM gauge coming from a 911 inspired watch is looking very, very different than the RPM gauge of the 356, of the Speedster.
Yeah.
Very different watch, different color code, different font, different. So it's same complication but different design, and that's how we started. So initially, I had this idea that was in 2016. And then I was late 2015, and then I start drawing the first watches. Took a friend being graphist helped me in terms of making that a bit more proper design. Then I started to register this design in Switzerland and in Europe, and with that I started to go to Switzerland and to say who can develop for Reservoir. We can develop three complications: retrograde minute, jumping hour, and power reserve, and be mindful that this would be at the 4,000 price point. In other words, who is able to work with us to develop complications at an affordable price?
Yeah.
Which almost looking like French words, like speaking bad. Because complication equal very expensive. Now, if you take the logic from the other side, you say, I want to do this complication at that price, then the first responses were, sorry, it's impossible. And then I was coming back home, taking the train back home and being, with a negative thought about, they said it's impossible to me. And then I have one of my favorite books at the night table, which is called "It Seems Impossible Until It Is Done." So if you have the vision, then it might be possible. And eventually, after meeting a lot of conceptors and watchmakers, some realized that with volume this could work. If you sell 4,000 pounds watches, you are going to sell much more. Many more that you would do with a 50k watch. That you don't need to make much volume. Actually, if you sell a few hundred pieces a year, you're good to go. In our case, we are more talking about thousands of watches, not hundreds, and that's how it started actually. And we could develop this module having this volume in mind to reach a bit more semi-industrial production. Of course, we have still a lot of manual, input. So the assembly of the module, the coupling with the movements, and then the watch assembly and setting. All that is done manually in Switzerland. But the manufacturing of the components of the module and the movements, of course, are more done through large scale, business facilities. And this helped a lot to reach the prices we wanted to develop. So that's basically how it started. And before you ask me the next question, just then things went, stars got aligned. So, I spoke with many of my friends. They all told me your concept is absolutely fantastic, very unique, very strong, very distinctive, very disruptive as well, with the right price point. I really love your concept and I'm ready to help you, to support you. And if you need some to raise funds, I will be happy to support your project. And by doing that, I have had 140 investors joining the equity of the company. Initially, my friends, then their friends, and then a connection with one of my friends knowing a family office in Luxembourg, and another one knowing an entrepreneur that succeeded and made a huge fortune that was fascinated by the brand. Mm-hmm. And then it became rising significant funds, which helped me to firstly to build the team. So I was joined by two of my operational partners, one in charge of sales, the other one in terms of marketing, and also helping to fund the first production batch. And then just starting the sales activities, the marketing strategy, how do we develop the brand, etc., etc. And that was made possible through this fundraising and through this team being super motivated in terms of bringing this new concept to the market. And again, that was in 2017, so it went quite fast. The module was developed in a bit less than 1 year and was tested for more than 6 months. And then we went live, first Basil World, and then we had an incredible positive feedback from the market, from retailers, agents, distributors, as well as watch influencers, journalists telling us your concept is fantastic, and it started from there really.
Yeah, and how many people do Reservoir employ at the moment?
We are 10 in Paris.
Yeah.
And plus all our production in Switzerland, which is outsourced. So we work with very close suppliers in Switzerland with dedicated team for the production, the manufacturing, and the assembly of the watches. And we plan in the mid to long term, we plan to internalize all our production. Today is a bit early because you have a scale effect. So yeah, maybe 10 in Paris for sales, marketing, design, operations, and all the billing and the administrative part. And then Switzerland is about that same level of resources for the production.
Yeah. So I think I know that when I start going into things head first, like it seems that you did, I think that the hardest bit to start with is getting other people around you to see the vision, to see the dream, and also to manage those people effectively if you've not done it before. Did you manage people when you were in banking?
Yeah, I did manage actually quite a large team. So in Japan was almost 500 people.
Wow.
In France, I was managing directly something like 700. Plus being a deputy of the bank, I was also involved in the full business, which was for more than 4,000 people. So I'm used to run the teams. Since my beginning of career, actually, my first job was heading a financial control team of 7-8 people. So it was already for me. I was 20 something. So I learned a lot actually from that. And when I was climbing the ladder in the bank, then I received some coaching. I had the opportunity to meet fantastic leaders who took me through what is being a leader versus a manager, and things I was not doing right, and things I should change, and things I was doing right. So being curious and being eager to learn how to run a team. So now it's a question, of course, of conviction. Some people have their own management style. I'm very much an empowerment, leader, and I believe that people takes responsibility, accountability, and by doing that, they do a much better job rather than doing their micromanagement approach that will kill initiative, will kill creativity. So I believe people should be accountable in a positive sense, meaning they have something to achieve for the company, from themselves, with the support of the rest of the team, of course, and my support. But that's where they will be extremely good, and most people are quite good at that, to be honest.
Yeah. And did you have any difficult times? I know that listening to other podcasts with CEOs and also companies especially that have grown quite quickly, like Reservoir, there's always a couple of key periods where it's been like a bit stop-start, because you're trying to get funding, but you're also trying to juggle your marketing, your accounts, your production of the watches, your movements. There's so many different facets to it. So is there ever a time that you were in trouble as a brand because you were looking for that funding, or take me back to the difficult times?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's as was saying Confucius, the horizon looks brilliant, but the path is sinuous.
Yeah.
A lot of curves, and a lot of hurdles. I think what helps a lot. So yes, we had that at various stages of the company. Even at the beginning, when I was coming back, as I was mentioning to you, when I was coming back from Switzerland with negative feedback from conceptors, that was I was telling myself, this is too hard. Maybe it's impossible what I'm trying to achieve. But when you have the vision, when you see this coming alive, then it's just happening. So when I look backwards, I'm more thinking about the achievements and the great success moments we had with the team rather than the difficulties. But of course, we had a lot of difficulties, and then managing the growth of the company is another challenge because you have some bigger swings of cash in both ways. So you have incoming money from your clients, and then funding your production and anticipating the fact that you will need more inventories if you want to meet your growth in 6 months' time. So do you have the cash for that? How do you fund it? So all that, it's a very classic for an entrepreneur, but so some swings can be quite challenging indeed. And I was listening one day to Max Busser. He was doing a conference about his story with MBNF, and he said we've been growing fast, but we were close to bankruptcy twice. Because the growth is a great thing to live with. You give a lot of perspective, but it's also a very challenging environment for you to manage because if you don't have pieces to sell, then your growth will stop. But if you buy too much, then you're gonna be tense with your cash. So it's difficult. And then of course, someday we have bad news. There is something that is not working as we expected, so we have to remake a batch of components of whatever, or we have, on the new components, we have some quality issues, so we need to react. I think the key again here is to stick to the vision and to be very committed and very hands-on in terms of solving the challenges you face. But it's easy to say, but I think it's a good philosophy in all cases. So you have something that doesn't work, or you have an issue to manage, but then just face it and just go for it. What is tough is when you have an accumulation of bad news. We had a French president, Jacques Chirac, some years ago, was saying, les emmerdes, so the bad things, generally come as a squadron. They all come together at the same time. So you have to face all these difficulties at the same time. But again, that's where you get to have your skin a bit tougher, a bit more resistant.
Yeah, and that's where the growth comes. I think that when I look back at Chisholm Hunter, I know that we were stockists of Reservoir, but a lot of the bad things that came, especially during COVID, there were so many improvements done through COVID because all of a sudden the only thing that we could focus on was the website. And it's like when you have, I think we have 29 boutiques at the moment. So when you have 29 boutiques and also the website, your focus isn't just on that one segment, it's on everything. So sometimes when things go bad, it does make you tougher, and it does kind of there's some good that comes from it. I was going to ask you about that as as a smaller brand to start with. It was 2016 you came to be, and then was it 2019 that COVID really started hitting?
The 2019 was bad rumors and dark perspective that something bad is coming, but it really started, and at least in France, it started really well. January was the first lockdown in some markets, and the big lockdown in France and in Europe was in March. So then everything stops. The phone stopped ringing, everything was stopped. The turnover went plummeted, and nothing was happening, and everybody was scared. Was locking down, waiting for the storm to go, and a lot of panic. The good thing is, so that was very challenging. The good thing is, firstly, in France we got some decent support from the government in terms of unemployment. Subsidies for keeping your employees.
It's like furlough money, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Helping a lot to save. To make your cost burden lighter.
Yeah.
As well as some semi-public funding through, we have a big bank in France supporting the new, not only the new, but the a lot of companies in their development, and this also they put into place quite rapidly a support initiative to help these companies to go through. But you're right. Then what happened is people started after the Hispanic move. People started to spend some time on internet, and then following their interest about whatever. And so people interested in watches could have more time to explore watch blogs and watch brands, of course. And what happened then is that we had a quite good timing because we had some big launches around that time. Because March is at that time was the time for Basil World, so we had a lot of novelties, and we had a lot of discussion with watch magazines and watch blogs, and then we had some the release of several novelties, including a quite nice skeleton that came at the market around that time. So it gives a lot of buzz and positive buzz, and it helped us a lot to have more traffic on our website and then more sales on our internet platform. That was and actually that saved the year. So we faced, it was a bit like a roller coaster. So some weeks was a very, very low business, and some other weeks where after a few months, then you have the massive recovery, people buying like hell, and then so we had that kind of swings for almost 2 years. Then there was a second lockdown, and it started again with going south. Although retailers started to be a bit more pragmatic, and as well as their clients were looking to buy watches because they were not spending their money. And then the revenge spending, as we say, actually started during the second lockdown. And we saw customers going by appointment to the retailer to buy his watch because he could extract from his home for 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever. So we saw the business picking up, and it did decrease a lot in 2022, where we really had this re-engaged retailers and buyers with a lot of appetite for novelties, and so this was for us was a very good year. And then 2023 was even better. But I remember, the shock of the first lockdown. It's funny. I remember the date because we had one team member who joined us 16th of March, 2020, and we went in France on lockdown on the 17th, on the Tuesday. So the guy, his first day he was at the office, and the second day he was home. And I told him, you know what, stay home. You have no choice, and don't worry, we'll take care of you. Start calling the retailers. Well, give a few weeks for everybody to start to not to relax, but at least to just take the shock, and then start calling them and re-engage with them because you have to discover them. So that was quite a very unique experience that I recall.
In this podcast, we talk all about watches, and I know the best place that you could get your next luxury watch. Chisholm Hunter are the sponsors of the Into the Mind podcast, and Chisholm Hunter are a family-run luxury retailer. They have brands like Tag Heuer. They actually do stock Reservoir, in fact. They have brands like Omega, Vacheron Constantin, etc., etc., etc. Pretty much every brand you can think of, they probably have it. So if you're looking for your next luxury watch or your next luxury diamond for that special someone, then head to chisholmhunter.co.uk. That is chisholmhunter.co.uk. And while you're on the Chisholm Hunter page, use the discount code CHSUB, that is CHSUB, on chisholmhunter.co.uk for an exclusive 10% off selected lines. And with that said, let's get back to this fascinating conversation about watches. Something that you said earlier as well kind of resonated regarding the kind of the swings in money when a business is growing. And something that I've always wanted to ask is, how do you measure the popularity of one line? If you were to buy into, let's say, a specific type of Reservoir watch, you kind of you need to have a number in mind that that you can sell, because otherwise you're going to be overstocked, right? So you want to grow, but you want to do it sustainably so that you're not overbuying. How can you measure that? Because I'm guessing that especially when your company was in its infancy, that's a very fine line, because if you overbuy, that could really not be good for the company, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But That's why it's more about, to be honest, a combination of your own feeling, your own perspective, your own, evaluation of what you think is gonna do well or not. But when you are the creator of a new collection, you always think that's gonna be running fantastically well.
Yeah. Tell me about
So it's
it.
so it's hard to, but so what we did is to keep a reasonably balanced focus, not to be over aggressive in terms of manufacturing. And I give you one example. When we launched the Popeye, the first Popeye edition, 200 pieces, we decided to announce 200 pieces, but then we manufactured the first batch of 100, and then we decided to see how the market would react.
I see.
And by doing that, we monitored we managed our risk while not creating too many frustration on the market. And what happened is that the first 100 piece batch was sold out in very, very quickly, in a few days, just gone. And everybody was calling, "Can I have a Popeye? Can I have a Popeye?" I said, "Sorry, no more, sold out. Second batch coming." So then we had some pre-orders on the second batch. Okay, can I have 5? Can I have 10? And then the second batch, as soon as announced, was already booked. So it's easier when it's a limited edition because you have your cap. But otherwise, we take our view. For instance, when we launched the Black Sparrow, we have 3 models. Or one which we are now launching, the Monza design, which is a collab with a design company in Los Angeles. We have the feedback from the market when we show prototypes or 3D visuals that this color is resonating a bit stronger. So let's make not 3 times hundreds, but let's make 150 and a bit less on the other colors. So taking market feedback. And so far, we haven't been having any issues with, overproduced watches. In the worst case, we can still, if we assemble a watch with components, with design component that doesn't resonate to the market, then we can still disassemble and reassemble with other, design collections. We haven't done it because it was already always right on time, on target in terms of number of pieces. But we could, if we are over optimistic on one collection, we can still reuse the module and the movement if we need. Again, never happened, but it could be. So it's not a massive risk. It's more. It's more. It's a 6 months risk, I would say. You are if you are sending to, but the worst thing if you have something that doesn't pick up is that your instinct is not working anymore, which is probably the most annoying thing.
Yeah. And how much do you think the watch industry? I've been in this industry since I was 16. I think I met Stephen when I was 16, so it's probably around about 16. How much of the industry do you think is about word of mouth? How much of it do you think is about someone saying to somebody else, "You can't get that watch, it's too rare," and then all of a sudden everybody wants that model? And what you see from the more mature brands is that they kind of either withhold stock or they make it out like they're a lot more rare than they actually are. And that's partially because of demand. And don't get me wrong, they've spent a huge fortune building a brand name and investing in marketing to get to that level. But how much do you think that it's about just the fact that people, quote unquote, can't get the watch that makes them want it?
Yeah, of course, that is one part. But, when you see that kind of reaction and then behavior, initially is about the frustration of can I get this watch? No, you can't, and the waiting list is 3 years. Then the frustration is getting higher. So that happens, and now it's cooling down actually. Yeah? Yeah. So you have these waiting lists are getting shorter, and some big brands never went on shortlist actually. So there is a multi-dimensional reality here, I think, depending on which brand. But you have 3 or 4 brands that are really highly demanded, plus the niche independent, some of them. I think what I'm hearing is that at some point, when you have to wait three years for having a 10, 12K steel watch, you start to lose patience. and some brand that are doing interesting design. I've seen their growth being fueled by the fact that some customers were getting just upset and eager to get a watch. And if I can't get this one, then I will get this other brand model, which is not that bad. Not exactly the one I was looking for, but it's not that bad. So I think that's this one has these behaviors. I think are changing quite a lot. Although now it's again cooling down because the demand has decreased, the stocks have increased, and therefore the waiting lists have been reduced. They are still existing, of course, for a few brands, but it's now easier to get what you are looking for. But then I think there is a second aspect of it, which is the speculation that came with it. Which is if someone wants to get a watch at 12K and that watch is not available for 3 years, then if I can get one, I can sell it maybe 24. And this is how it fueled in a very massive way the CPO market. And then you see all these big players that went into this market, and then the numbers are just spectacular.
Yeah.
And now we know this is cooling off big time now. And of course, this works only for very few brands. So if you want to go to buy this watch to just make money and not to enjoy the watch, the design of it, or what it means in terms of wearing that particular model, but it's just about buying the watch, putting it in your vault, and going to a digital platform to have it sold with a markup of 2. This is not watchmaking anymore to me. That's it's not about. It's purely about making money, and this is not our market, to be honest. I mean, we talk to passionate people who love the universe that inspire us, and that love planes and cars and driving, sports car, or who love motorsport, or who love planes or submarines or everything, or scuba diving, manometer. So we are more through the passion angle. But then we have a bit similar issues with some of our collection when sometimes we are out of stock and we have demand. I had a demand again yesterday from a client in the UK. He wants this particular model that it was a limited series, not available anymore. And he was really insisting. And I said, sorry, it's sold out. So there's nothing I can do here.
Yeah.
That's more specific for limited edition, but even sometimes we are out of stock of a collection. We haven't replaced an order to get more pieces, and sometimes we have longer lead time to get customers being delivered. But that's life, and I think people understand it.
Yeah, I think so. I think that I find it quite interesting because it's hard to actually see whether the watch market has dropped or it's just the pre-owned values that have dropped, because it seems to me that people are still buying watches more than ever, but maybe they're just not. They're just a bit more savvy in the fact that they don't want to wait, and they know that there is alternatives out there if they want those alternatives. So I think that potentially what's happened with the watch market is it's not reduced in terms of volume of sales, but a lot more brands are getting a piece of the pie. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it completely does. I think, as you rightly said, the more savvy becomes a customer and buyer, the more open he will be in terms of buying a watch from that brand. So more mature markets like Japan or Mexico, interesting, is a very mature market in terms of watchmaking because people love watches since a very long time. You have very strong medias in terms. You have very, very good events, watch fairs and so forth. So the culture and the fact that people are very watch savvy makes the market much more mature, and therefore they are not just wanting to buy this, very well-known model because their friends have the same and they want to do like their friends.
Yeah.
Because in Mexico they have already done it. So they've bought this watch and then they say, okay, well, what's different here? What's new? What's innovative? What's else on the market? And then that's why we are doing great in Mexico or in Japan or in some part of Middle East, not all of it, but some part. You see that kind of savvy attitude getting increased. And I think that's the way forward. So some markets are much more into I want to buy a big brand with to be like my friends, and what are they wearing? They wear this, so I want exactly the same. And then suddenly they will start to buy more watches, and they will start to get open to other alternatives. And that's why many independent brands are doing quite well these days, despite the fact that the market is a bit more difficult, because they are facing people more knowledgeable about watch brands, about complications, about watchmaking, about the movement, about the design, about the finishing. they are becoming much more savvy, and that's a good news.
And how much do you think of that? Do you think that kind of savviness relates to social media, influencers, YouTube, and this kind of thing? It's an area that I'm in quite heavily, and I think that from my point of view, you know, I've always been in watches for the passion, and the fact that I can see other people getting into watchmaking for the passion and investing in watch brands that aren't your bog standard that everybody has, I think is absolutely brilliant. And I think that people are a lot more knowledgeable about these watch brands due to the rise of social media, especially over COVID. Is that something that you've seen at Reservoir?
Yeah, of course. You have again very strong international watch medias that we all know. I mean, Revolution, Monochrome, Hiki, of course, who is now back to full content business model. So these blogs, these social medias have played a huge role in terms of educating and bringing new brands. Now, some medias are a bit more conservative, and they will only publish big brands. But some others will be more open to new independent brands and concepts, and the demand is just rising. So this is absolutely critical. I think it's not just the consumer getting more curious; he's getting more knowledgeable through all these medias, and then discovering this new brand, this new concept, this new approach, this new concept. That's something that has been relayed very well by social medias and blogs and medias. I think that's key.
Yeah, absolutely. And have you guys at Reservoir, have you worked with these influencer kind of people before, and YouTubers and all that kind of stuff?
Of course, yeah. I mean, we do work with all these guys. So of course, it will depend of the novelties that we are preparing. So we have some period where we have less novelties, so we have a bit less share of voice, I would say. But some of the time we have novelties coming, and therefore we have some. It's important when the journalist or the blogster or the influencer as a like into the new model. But if it's the case, generally we have a good intakes after that and good coverage. So, but you're absolutely right. It's detrimental because consumers will. The more savvy they are, the more they want to get info about novelties, or what's happening on the market, or what's new, and social networks and blogs are absolutely key in that regard.
And what are your thoughts on I know that something that happened recently within the industry is Hiki was actually bought over by Watches of Switzerland Group. Do you have any thoughts that you can share on that? It's a weird one to me.
Yeah, it's hard to comment, to be honest, but I think a general thought, if when you mix content and distribution, it starts to be a little bit, it could become a bit unbiased.
Yeah.
Or biased, sorry. And in that say, your content you are showing to me, and then you are selling watches as a retailer, actually. So is that absolutely well separated in terms of China walls, kind of expression. So some consumers are not full, they know, they can see what's happening. So, but I don't know Hiki very, very well. I don't know what is their move. I think it's smart for Watches of Switzerland because they are getting one of the best content platform for watches. And there is this CPO business, what's left over, and I'm sure they will do something out of it. And then at Hiki, they join one of the leaders in terms of watch distribution, refocusing on content. And I think that's a good news because they are extremely good at that.
Yeah, I think anything that strengthens the watch market is a great thing, but I do think that amongst watch enthusiasts, me being one of them, there is so much distrust, especially when it comes to publications, because you don't know what has been amended, tweaked, changed. You don't know whose opinion it is. I mean, I worked for something really interesting happened to me recently. Do you know the company DJI, the drones?
DJI, it rings a bell.
They do like a
Yeah,
drones,
yeah, yeah.
like
Yeah, of course, yes.
yeah, camera drones. So I've always
Yeah, sure.
I've always wanted to work with that company. And I eventually worked with them because I do videography, and I knew that that product was being launched at 2 p.m. yesterday. So because they wanted me to post the video that I did for 2 p.m. As I posted that video at 2 p.m., I went online onto YouTube, and there was about 10 reviews of that drone all posted at 2 p.m. But I know for a fact that they would have had to send their review to DJI to be proofread prior to the post. So it's like,
Okay.
it's hard to know what's true and what's not. It's kind of manipulated in a weird way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, again, I don't think we can fool consumers for a long time. People are not stupid and they know what's happening. So that's why we don't work with all the medias. We work with most of them, but some we are not that comfortable.
Yeah.
But it really depends, you know, but I think consumers have the right, you know, the right wisdom, I would say, or will get eventually. I think you know, it's in our market, it's already like that. So why it shouldn't be the case for watches? You know, people are not stupid.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah, and if there's something wrong with a watch, that they're going to find it. You know, and I think that's the rise of platforms that are more freelance, that are more let's say kind of play both sides of the field. That's partially why they've been a success recently. I think that you find that these YouTubers and podcasters that they kind of can see both sides of something. That's why people trust in them a lot more, and that's why you can see the mainstream media, the news that everybody kind of knows is manipulated. There's less trust there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But that's the difficulty. I mean, it's the same with cars, for instance. When you have your first buyers of you know, advertisement in a sports car magazine, when you make a critic of a car, you might be not as fully reflecting what you think. If you know that you are getting big dollars from the guys, so you're gonna have a bit softer. So it really depends. Some medias are very strict separation between editorial and media buying. Some others it's a bit more blurrer. So it really depends. Again, I think people like you know, honest review of product. And when it's everything looks, you know, perfect, you know, something odd, right?
Yeah.
It might be something. So
yeah.
And again, you see some medias are very transparent. They say the goods and the bads, or the pros and the cons, and some others is like fantastic watch, and it really depends.
And Reservoir, wasn't it? You've been at Basil World, but you've not been at Watches and Wonders. Have you?
No, so we've been to Basil World from 2017 to 2019. We were prepared for 2020, but then it all stopped. So we have applied to Watches and Wonders. We are part of the pre-selected brands. And they confirmed that we will be there. Well, initially they said 2025, so next year, but then they had a space issue in terms of space availability, and they say, sorry, we cannot accommodate. We cannot find a space for you guys for next year, but we will find for 2026. So therefore, we had made several different initiatives. We had been at Time to Watches fair that was at the same date, but it was a bit remote location in Geneva. And last year we've been at Beau Rivage Hotel having a suite there, and that was a very successful event for us. Although we know we missed part of the traffic, of the massive traffic that goes to Watches and Wonders. And next year we're going to be again with Time to Watches because they moved to a location which is exactly next door to Palexpo in Geneva. So therefore, it's very convenient to join when once you have met your clients in Watches and Wonders. You just have to walk 2 minutes, and then you can find out the 40 brands being in Time to Watches. So we made that move for next year.
Yeah, yeah. It's so funny. I remember I used to go to Basil World, and the difference between Basil World and Watches and Wonders is absolutely incredible, isn't it?
It is. It is. It is. It is. And well, Basil was it's a shame that they really messed around and finished like that. But anyway, it's not me to judge. But the atmosphere that we got during Basil World, and especially the Les Ateliers, kind of independent new brands rising and so forth, was really exciting. You had a lot of traffic, a lot of buzz, a lot of people looking for what's happening there. Watches and Wonders is more the big machine that push big brands. But again, they want to open. We've been invited to visit them, and then we've been pre-selected with other brands. So we are on the waiting list, if you want.
Yeah.
To manage their space issue. But I think what they are doing with Le Carré des Horlogers and with La Place, it's an interesting, refreshing. When you go to see Le Carré des Horlogers, you have some, very interesting brands like Essence or Trilom. You can see their novelties, and so once you spend the time with the big ones, then you can have some bit of fresh air coming from this brand, which is quite good. I'm not saying the big brands don't have fresh air, but it's more traditional.
Yeah.
But then you can see some buzz in terms of Le Carré, which is quite good. So yeah, it's a very different atmosphere, but I think they are. I hope they would have more space for us next year, but that's going to be the year after next. That's fine. But I think that's the place to be anyway.
Yeah, and it's very exciting. I mean, I remember I used to go to Basil World, and you'd be outside eating a sausage roll for £20, and now you go to Watches and Wonders, and you've got a glass of champagne and lots of tapestries coming
That's
over.
Right. Much more luxury oriented, and it's a super well executed. I mean, the standards are super high, and it's a different world, clearly. Yeah.
And is that significant investment? I mean, I know that Basil World, I remember some of the brands talking to me about Basil World and the prices they were paying for space. And I was thinking, my God, but is it as bad at Watches and Wonders in terms of paying for that space? Or is it maybe not as bad because it's not been developing as much, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, it does. But I think Basil World was expensive. But as we said, Watches and Wonders, they have higher standards. They have more invitations going out, which includes catering and stuff. So the cost is significant from simulation we've made. It's not a small investment. It's a very significant investment. But again, you want to be in the market as a not a leading brand, but part of the leading brands and part of the independence, the rising independence. That's again probably the place to be. So, but then it's a significant investment.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially when it's that classy at the event. The amount of champagne that these guys must go through must cost a fortune.
Yeah. I'm sure it does. Yeah, it does. And but again, the brands are taking are being recharged for that. So you have higher standards and therefore more cost, which is aligned with what they want to do. And this is a very luxury, high standard event. I mean, that's quite impressive. Some booths are just breathtaking, really very impressive.
Yeah.
So no, it's a very interesting event. Very interesting event.
Can you remember the watches? I know that now you're the head of Reservoir, and you won't be able to pick a favorite Reservoir watch. But can you remember the first couple of watches that got you into the industry in terms of got you excited to create your own brand? Can you remember the brands that you used to collect?
Of course. Well, I collected. I always loved complications. So. I tried because I was just a banker. So a banker is not a football player at Arsenal. And I was facing, I love this complication from Jaeger-LeCoultre or from Zenith, but then the price is probably too high for a watch for my standards, would I say. But then, I was buying, like everybody, Rolex, Zenith, Jaeger-LeCoultre, Tudor, Breitling, Bell & Ross. I'm quite fan of Bell & Ross because their inspiration is measuring instruments, so it resonates very well to me. But I'm very open-minded. I love all most brands. I know most of their collection, and I'm a great fan of it to see. And I love to see also the independence. I think your work, they are doing some fantastic designs, really clever. Reservoir, very smart, very nice brand. So I love many brands. And in terms of Reservoir, it's if I may quote Mr. Ferdinand Porsche, when he was asked what is your favorite Porsche, he was responding the next one. That's exactly that, because initially we launched with 4 collections to send the signal that we were not just a car-inspired watch brand, but instrument-inspired. That means we had 2 cars collection, 1 plane collection, and 1 submarine collection and in 2017. So even day one, we're having 4 collections. And I love the 4, at the same level. One's coming with a very vintage bronze execution, which is very, very cool, very submarine typed. The GT Tour is one of our best-selling collection, and it was part of the first line. So again, it's very big numbers, white on the black background with the orange hands, very motorsports feeling. But every new collection, when we launched the Longbridge 39mm from the Mini Cooper, that was a very sweet, very nice, smaller case design and very vintage. And then we launched the Hydrosphere from the scuba diving manometer, so our diving watch, 45 but without lug. So again, very unique look and feel. And then what we just released earlier this year, I love them. So hard to me to respond, to be honest. It's
all of them.
Probably say, all of them, and the next one as well, because there is what we release, but there's everything that is coming. So we have a lot of we have a deep and long product pipeline, and I know what will be coming next year, and it's quite exciting, to be honest, to move from the initial concept and the design, then the prototype, and then the production. It's a very exciting journey.
And I know that other brands do this, but do you have like a room with the next 2 years worth of designs in that room?
We do, actually. For us, it's a 3 years pipeline with some kind of rules about not releasing too much, because sometimes you are just tempted to release a new collection or a new edition of war. And then you tend to lose everybody, because if you launch too many stuff, people are confused. What is this? What is that compared to that? And why you say this new collection now, knowing that you have launched another collection new 6 months ago, so I'm a bit lost. So we try to bring some discipline, and my partners have a key role here, because I'm a very creative person, and I have a lot of launch ideas and collabs and special limited edition. And they bring a bit of discipline in that process, in making sure that we are doing the right thing. But then, given the lead time of this industry, it's important to have a product roadmap. So and then for each line you have a project and ongoing. So we have a new caliber being developed now. So we are planning its launch. So it's a new way of reading time. So it's a major release. It will be a major release for us. And again, this takes probably 18 months between the first idea and then the delivery of watches to the market. Probably 1 year plus, 1 year and a half. So if you don't have proper planning, you just miss everything. And we try to avoid to have launch of new collections without having production, because it makes it creates a lot of generates a lot of frustration on the market. We have customers. So we've done that in the past. So we know quite well that when we announce a new collection and then we deliver the watches 6 months after, it creates a lot of frustration.
Yeah, so you want the watches there prior to the launch.
Exactly, at the same time. So you have a very comprehensive message where you say, this is the novelties, and if you want to take them, we have them. It was not always the case with us, so that's something we are trying really to push hard. Sometimes you have the temptation of you want to show something at this fair or that event. So even if you are the prototype phase, then you release a prototype and you say the production will be coming. And then sometimes you have a bad news and you have some delay in your production, and therefore you generate again a lot of frustration, and we try to avoid that now.
Yeah, it's something in the watch market that kind of frustrates me a little bit as well, is that it seems like a lot of people, especially on the YouTube space, I mean, we have quite a big YouTube channel at the moment at Chisholm Hunter, and a lot of people are saying, oh, this brand copied that brand, and that brand copied this brand, and this brand copied that. And I'm thinking, these brands are working 2 to 3 years ahead of time. Can they do that? Can they see other people's designs and then replicate off of that?
Well, some the feedback you are hearing for some of them is copying iconic models. So sometimes you see this new, again, I won't give you names, but brand names, but you have this new release. It looks oddly close to that collection, historical collections. In some other case, you might have opportunistic brand that will copy opportunistic in a bad sense in that contest by copying and trying to have a quick release by cutting the prototype phase and by doing the production straight. But I would say generally it's more coming from older collection. Like I've seen a brand like recently, I don't recall their name, but they've made a brand combining on the upper part of the dial and the case looking like a Nautilus, and then the bottom part looking like a Royal Oak. And it's like so it's like a fusion of the two, and it's so I won't comment on what I feel about that, but I believe that creativity is about doing your own stuff and not copying the others. Now that brand, the gimmick is that they combine two models, so that's quite almost a funny watch to see, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
But I think some brands are, I don't know, some brands might have very strong designers, and some others are looking for better designers and can't find it apparently. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, no, for sure. And what, when you look into the future of Reservoir, I know that you're expanding quite rapidly. You're kind of trying to grow your team. You're trying to internalize all your production. What's in the pipeline for you? What are you wanting to do? What do you want to achieve?
Further growth, both in terms of business, of meeting, end buyers, of sharing our enthusiasm, our passion with the collectors and the watch amateur, and growing the company with the business. So as you said, internalizing and having we are not money driven. I mean, we are an independent company, so I'm not run by financial guys expecting bottom line every month or so. So we are more going through a long-term journey. But we know that at some point, profit is freedom. It's not just to make money, but to have options to orientate your future. If you want to develop a new caliber or something radically new, then you better be self-funded to make that happen. Or if you want to accelerate in that particular market, or if you want to open a retail store in that particular city because it makes a lot of sense, then it's this growth, as far as it's funded, it's really exciting.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It makes sense. And finally, I did realize you had a watch on. What watch do you have on?
Well, actually, I was wearing two because I have two wrists.
You're double wristing it.
Exactly. So I was wearing this GT Tour Spring Lap.
Yeah, I like the green hand on that.
Yeah, it's a green hand, green power reserve, and then the red zone is green actually. So it's coming with either a metal band like this one or a rally strap in leather with green stitching. So yeah, it's very sporty. You know, the green is used in some Mercedes models. You know, very sporty with italic numbers. So it gives a nice spring feel, I think. And on the other hand, I'm wearing the Sonomaster. That's our 7-hand chronograph,
7. Oh, wow.
and it's working like the two view meter of vintage amplifiers.
Right. Okay.
This is left and right. So it's inspired by these vintage amplifiers that gives the two view meters level of the output of the music of the sound into each way, and it comes with two retrogrades. So here you have the date that change once a day, and of course on 31st retrograde to 1, and this is a retrograde seconds. So as you will see, every 30 seconds, it retrograde back to 0. So it's a very alive complication, and
Oh,
boom.
wow.
So it's pretty cool. And then the rest is the chronograph. So classic chronograph with 3 hands in the center, and then the 2 compacts for minutes and hours.
Wow. Wow.
But that changes every day, you know. Some day I wear a Popeye, some day I wear Nerfite, some day I wear Tiffany Messer. It really depends my mood. Of the size as well. Sometimes I go to a big big scuba diving is 45, but without luck, so it doesn't look big. But it's very nice watch. And some other day I will wear 39 because I'm wearing a light suit or whatever, and I want to have the scene watch with me. So it really depends.
Do you buy watches based on emotion? Like, do you buy watches based on an event that is coming up? Let's say somebody's getting married, or you've had a promotion, or do you buy watches based on emotion, or is it more just looks for you?
No, it's more. Well, if I talk about my personal experience, it's actually it's a mix of both because I have 3 kids. So when I had my first kids, my wife was asking innocently, "Would you like anything, any presents?" I say, "Yeah, a nice watch would be great." So this is how I started my collection because now my kids are quite grown up now. With my oldest one, with having a baby last week, so I'm a new grandfather since 1 week now. So it's quite a feeling. Thank you very much. And but the most often is about a really passion for a design or a specific complication. So like I bought some Glashütte original, for instance. They have some pantograph, very interesting watch. You can see there is a different eye, both on the case, on the way to read time, the way they restitute. They show complications, the way they developed it, the quality of the movement of the back. You can see the level of finishing is quite spectacular.
Yeah.
So it's really about getting the passion out of it. Some of the time it's more about, I like watches that will look. That's why I love Bell & Ross. So I am in a jet fighter mood. So I really like planes, and I'm going to. Then I will have a look to. I would have a look because, of course, today I don't buy watches anymore because I do my own and I only wear Reservoir. But it's really about passion. So some watch I will say, okay, this model is very unique, very interesting, original. I like all the details, the quality of details and finishing they put into this watch is quite nice, and therefore I want to get it.
Yeah.
So if there is a birthday coming, I'll try to combine the both. But generally, I have a pretty clear idea of what I want.
Yeah. And finally, I know we're just out of time, but I was going to ask you: have you got any sneak peeks that you can share with anyone coming up? Is there anything exciting that you can give a teaser of at Reservoir? That you're allowed to?
Yeah. No, I was not expecting this question, but no, we have a lot of stuff coming. So I was mentioning the Monza design. I've been surprised to see the interest we are getting. We also have the Popeye family, because we started with one Popeye collection, limited edition. We've made now something like 10. Popeye on a camel in the desert, Popeye playing with the falcon in the sand dunes, Popeye playing cricket, and the demand is incredible for these watches. And we will release soon the Popeye playing golf. And that's pretty cool because the hand is the two arms and the club, and it makes the swing very alive every hour. So, that's new releases coming, and then we're gonna have some big announcement. But it's a bit early to say, but the new caliber I was mentioning earlier, that's gonna be a very different way to read time again, like Reservoir we like to do, but it's something I have never seen. I've been looking to see whether this idea has been found by someone else on the market, and I couldn't find it. Very unique way of, very complicated, very easy to read, but very different, very Reservoir again. But that's going to be for next year, my dear Harrison. So it's a bit early for me to share more about this one.
I'm trying to get you into trouble.
Exactly. No, it's too early, but no, it's a very interesting. What we are keen to do at Reservoir is to stick to our DNA. So sometimes I'm asked, are you going to make a 3-hand watch? And I say, have you seen ever a 3-hand meter in a plane or in a car? And the response is no. So you've got your response. We are not going to make 3-hand watch. That's not us. That's not our DNA. That's not what we like. We like 3-hand watch, but that's not, the brand DNA. Mm-hmm. I think it's super important to be coherent with your positioning, your conviction. You can change, of course, at some point, but it's important to, if you decide not to change, then to stick to who you are and who you want to be.
Yeah.
And I think then the key is execution. Everything is about execution. I've seen so many people with great idea and with poor execution, it led nowhere. So to have a good idea is very unique, it's very rare. But once you have the idea, you've done nothing. You just have the starting point.
Yeah.
The rest is about executing.
No, absolutely. And listen, Francois, I need to thank you so much for your time today. And I know we had a couple of difficulties, but we did it. We made it happen.
Yes. Thank you, Harrison. It was a great moment with you. Thank you for the quality of that moment, and I wish you all the best, and wishing us all the best in Scotland.